think I'll just start this one. Just get straight to it. Oh, man.
Fair enough.
What was that, Karen?
I said fair enough.
Saying things to me? We're just gonna start. We're just gonna get going. I'll let people get in. I'll give people a chance. Right. I'll just be here, letting people get in. So, put my phone there. There we go. Give people a chance to get into the stream, and we'll. Fuck, hang on, my microphone's over here. There we go. What'd you call me, Carmen? The fuck did you call me? Huh? What'd you call me? Alright, so we're gonna be breaking down some of my character designs just because I thought it would be fun. I've just beat Dark Souls with my brother. So I thought, well, what I'll probably do is I'll do a stream. I'll de-stress, and I'll go through some of the character designs because I figured that would be fun. So we're just gonna give people a chance to get in here.
I'll post your thing on the Discord.
Thank you, Carmen. So we're going to start soon. I should probably make this smaller. I want to show people the far. Did you just see that now, Carl?
Yes.
Hang on, I gotta make it smaller. Oh shit! I've lost the thing. Oh, there it is. It's going. Oh, there you go. Oh, it looked like shit, but anyway, yep. There's the this is the hardback, which is now had all the stuff centered, so it's all nice and fucking perfect. Okay. So we're gonna go through some of the characters in this book. If you're interested in getting this book, links are in the description. If you want the ebook is cheaper, obviously, because there's no printing costs. It's a fucking massive book, so it's like 3 books worth. It's a 1,000-page book with full color illustrations, most of which you will see in this stream. But so you've got the characters all illustrated when you meet them, and there's Greta, as seen in her animation test. So there's Yeshua. So as you meet the characters and as you are reintroduced to the characters, the book familiarizes you with them, because there are a lot of different shapes and sizes, which adds to the value. So it's a traditional sort of book. It's also kind of a nice weapon, but that's up to you. Obviously there are some illustrations in the book. I mean, it is a book for adults. I know it has like a nice little character on there, but it is a book for adults. For those of you who've read it, know there's no swearing in it. It's not that type of adult. It's not like I feel like a lot of things these days are labeled for adults just because they have swearing and sex jokes. But for me personally, I think the thing that differentiates adult content is theme and topics the sorts of things it actually talks about. And there's a lot of stuff in this book that adults will obviously be grappling with, because you need to live a certain amount of time to understand some of the struggles of the adult world. But yeah, it's not for kids. There may not be any swearing in it, but there are some topics. So just, keep that in mind. It's very much a story for adults and not teenagers that want to be adults. However, I think, generally speaking, I think young adults can certainly enjoy it. What I'm trying to say is, don't be fooled by the colourful characters. You know what I mean? That's why I put this on the back, because it's like, I'll show you the cover for a bit, because I'm a fan of this design, even though it's my own. You've got Lucy on the front there, and obviously the border cuts everything off from the picture except the blood trail, which leads you around the book to the back. So that should be a little warning, and there literally is a warning. There's the instead of a blurb, I decided to just go with almost like a gambit. So, you have been warned. Essentially, it's essentially an enter at your own risk sign, which I thought would be fun. Okay, somebody sent me a message on Discord. Oh, it's from the Fenner Discord in the announcements.
That was me.
Oh, Fenner's streaming now. The Fenner?
Do you know him?
Well, I've heard of him. I have. What?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I've seen him around before. Hang on, let me load into the stream.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. I think I've seen him around before. Hang on, let me load into the stream. I don't know why he's mocking me.
Yeah. You should beat him up.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know why he's mocking me.
What are you saying?
You should beat him up.
I don't know what he's talking about. I'm talking about you stupid cunt. What are you saying? I said I'm calling you a cunt. You don't speak to me like that. You don't call me a cunt. I'm calling you a cunt, you stupid fucking cunt. This is my fucking stream. I'm live right now. Now, you fucking started this, you stupid little bastard. I'll fucking slap you around. I'll fucking skull rag you, you fucking little shit. Who do you think you are? I did not start shit. Oh, fucking Carmen, we're gonna fucking deal with this, man. I'm streaming right now. You. Oh, fucking Carmen, we're gonna fucking deal with this, man. Blocked. Now he seems like a bit of a bellend, to be honest with you. I'm not sponsored.
I'll sponsor you.
Right. Let's get started, shall we? So obviously we're just going to be going through some of the character designs in the book and some of my thought processes behind them. There's varying degrees of depth, I think. You know what I mean? It really depends. So we'll start with someone familiar. So here's Lucy Lacemaker. This is one of my favorite designs personally. Because of the colors. Obviously she's comprised of just two colors, which is red and white. In the book she is described as having silver hair, which I also like. From when I first designed her, there was the idea of her being a wounded animal. Something's not quite right with her. That sort of evolved and changed to like the sort of the type of damage. Originally she was just sort of like an insane character, which I sort of got bored of pretty quickly. It was whatever. She didn't really come into her own until I started writing the book. For those of you who have read the book know that she actually something happens to her eye in the first chapter. It's not much of a spoiler because it's like the first chapter. Now, she's always had the red eye, and originally it was just like, well, something could have happened to it. I'm not sure what. Obviously, I decided what. So I wanted to give it some utility. You might notice that in this illustration, her chest is completely red because it sort of looks like a heart shape. But that goes away fairly quickly, so it looks like a broken heart. The colours I like because you've got white and red, which is synonymous with blood and bandages. She does look like a wounded animal. Even her tail is banded like a barbershop. The polka dots I like too, because they make her look like something out of a fucking crazy sort of fictional story. Something out of Wonderland almost. There was a point when I was writing the book where I was sort of debating on whether or not I should tone down the polka dots. I decided against it for this reason, is because I thought it would be more interesting for her to wear clothing going forward. So in the book she does actually get an outfit, and in the second book she continues to wear clothing, and it's something that I'm definitely happy with her doing, because if you think of these sort of blotches on her as sort of bloodstains, I like the fact that when she wears the clothing you can't really see them, and she's very much hiding the fact that she's damaged in a sense. And she's got this very nice etiquette about her. She's very polite. Everything flows together rather nicely. You've got the little motifs on the flutter lace. But I much prefer that idea of there being a very civilized animal dressed very nicely, and then behind it all there are these bright, these polka dots, these stripes, these wounds, these bright colors, and it makes her look very wild, I think. So I chose to keep them, and the little band in the hat, the yellow and black, is obviously that has a bit of meaning in the book itself. You'll find out why when you read it. So plus it makes the design pop, I think. So she's a nice design. She's very simple, nice sort of shape. I do like the polka dots. I do like the colors. Her design does change a little bit going forward. Like in the second book, she's going to have some slightly longer hair. She's going to have different outfits. And I think that will be good. I think the good thing about Lucy Lacemaker is that her core design is so borderline psychotic and wild and like wounded, that the contrast of that dressing up really nicely and hiding much of it behind these fine silks and chains and all that stuff and jewelry, I think is very interesting. So we're doing this. So that's Lucy. Going forward, we'll do it in alphabetical order. So next we'll do Barnaby. Most people probably don't know who the fuck Barnaby is. He is a character in the book. He is the old paradigm judge sort of character. So he is the judge before Nathaniel, and I wanted to go with a sort of nice, I suppose like a magical fawn type design, a beast of the forest. He's got a nice sort of grey coat here. He's got the green eyes. He definitely looks like some form of woodland sprite. Something woven about him, rugged, aged, nice big horns as well. So again, quite plain. He's not as Kivik as the other characters. A lot of the other characters you will see have bright colours, strange patterns. He's quite plain for a reason. His character is pretty, I suppose, almost human in a way. He doesn't have a lot of the eccentricity of his peers or his kin. He is more Earth-like in a way, both in his attitude and his outlook, and so I wanted that to reflect in his design. So very common mammalian shades and stuff like that, and I think it works really well. Going forward, we have Bartholomew. Now Bartholomew is another character that we meet in the book. He is he's a Yolshan officer who works under Dalton, As you can see, he has 6 stripes, which are his rank. You've got the Yoshin Gold. He's a very prickly guy, very cold, very cynical. He's got those bright blue eyes, though. So there's something behind them. But he's very stoic, not particularly pleasant. Yeah, I wanted to give him a degree of softness, so I gave him the nice blue eyes, which I think is reflective of his character. He's got a very tough exterior, but deep down he's got more of a soft spot. Basil and Teaser I decided to put together. These are 2 of my favourite designs, actually. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do because you saw their animation test, these 2 are romantic partners. They are intimately engaged, which I like because one of them is a bird and one of them is a cat, so it's like predator and prey intermingled. Which one's on the first layer? So we'll start with Basil. Basil is an avid bone collector, so his fingers are decorated with bones. His cane is a spine and a skull with a tongue as the wrist cord. He's a pretty morbid fellow, pretty shy, nice greens. His eyes are a particular feature. And of course he has little jewels and gems and fancy cloths, and the reason he does this in the book is he lures in little fowler thieves, so when they try and pickpocket him, he can snatch them up and kill them. So he's described as a walking graveyard. Quite charismatic when he wants to be. I do like the design. There's a lot of Fagin in him. Oliver Twist is probably my favourite movie of all time, the musical. And you'll notice that Fagin in that film has a big green hat and a big green coat, and there's a lot of that in him. And of course the song "You've Got to Pick a Pocket or Two," so there's a lot of that here. So taking inspiration and influence. He's not very Fagin in personality. He's more reserved, more I think sly in a. What's the word? He's meticulous, I would say. He's not as clumsy. And then, of course, you have Teaser. She's fun. Similar thing with Basil, with the jewels coming out. You got the little rings in her coat. She's obviously a big cat. She's got a golden incisor, lots of scars on her face. You'll find out why she has those eventually in the story. I do like her big lollipop smile. It's pretty wild, but if you look at some prehistoric animals, you'll see some really crazy shapes. And I thought that giving that sort of twirl to a mammalian sort of character would be fun. Obviously, Basil and Teaser are both thieves, and so I liked the idea of her sort of having a bandit mask, but it's her fur, so this is all skin. Her upper arms are skin, and then the lower half of her face is also skin, which means the top half of her face is fur, so it looks like she's a cat burglar. You get it? So she's got like a sort of burglar mask design going on here, except it's natural, it's woven into her. She's got the nice tall top hat as well, the twirling whiskers, very amusing sort of features going on there. And again, I very much like Basil and Teaser together. They are described as a package deal. They very much are a package deal. A lot of fun. I think I will be doing an animation with them soon. I think. What? Sorry.
Animation test or like a
No, like not an animation test. Like maybe
got the book.
maybe like a short animation of just them sort of interacting, like a scene from the book.
Yeah.
Next up we have Boutica. She's not looking her best here. She was sort of based on the idea of an old harpy. So you've got the bright, colourful wings. The top half is very fluffy, very animalish, and then the bottom half is mostly just skin. She's got a bit of anger in the eyes with the red. She's got these runic war symbols. She did used to be a Yosh. Boutica in the book is a dolly, which is basically it's just a sort of like a prostitute, essentially. The expression she's doing is called the doll face in the book. Obviously, there are modern connotations, but there are also historical ones. Let me find some examples here. We're going to go on a journey through history. So the first is probably Callie, who is synonymous with death. You will almost always see her carrying a severed head, which obviously is also synonymous with the Kivik world. And she protrudes her tongue, same as her victims. You've also got the Gorgons, the most famous of which is Methusa, who was also beheaded. While I was working on the book, I was playing The Witcher, and there's a griffin that you can kill, and that's what the griffin head looks like. And also, much to my amusement, there is a painting that you can do in the DLC with Geralt sitting on the griffin, and as you can see, the griffin's tongue is protruded with the eyes rolled upward, and as you can see, bit of inspiration coming here from The Witcher, of all things, which is an excellent game. It's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I did go for a more Wolven thing. I didn't want to do the beak. I wanted some form of viciousness to shine through. And of course the expression is also synonymous with death, so here we have a medieval depiction of a fox pretending to be dead, luring in its prey. And so it's fun. I mean, the August View, the book series, is designed to be a parody of the animal kingdom and human culture. So when they die, obviously this is the face they pull, and so the dollies mimic death and humiliate themselves in very amusing fashions. So I thought that would be good, because death in most fiction is boring. They clutch their chest, they get out their final word, I never told you. Death in reality is kind of a shit show, so I wanted it to be something traumatizing and horrific. This is another reason the book is not for young people. When characters die in the book, it's not very pleasant. You really don't want your characters, you do not want your favorite characters to suffer this fate, because it's not good. And it's not that I don't like cliched sort of ideas of death. It's just
Death don't work that way.
Death doesn't work that way, and I think in fiction it should have to it should have more of an impact. It should be more visceral, and I wanted that.
99, most people who have like someone in their life die, it doesn't go out in a I always cared about you. It ends up with it's not fun.
It's a death rattle and they shit themselves. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So yeah, bit of history there. So moving on, we've got Celia. Again, one of my favourite designs. She's also one of my earliest characters. I came up with this character sort of when I was a toddler. Sort of. I say sort of because not really. When I was a toddler, I was too short to reach the door, and I wandered into a box room. It was like a storage room in the house, and basically I couldn't reach the handle, and I got locked in, and I ended up just sleeping in the room, and there were no curtains in there, and I sort of had one of those, when you wake up and you're sort of asleep but you're not. I had a sort of a strange hallucination of a woman in the stars. The reason that's not exactly where Celia came from is because that was the base inspiration for her, but her design came much later when I was a teenager, around 14, and I drew her up in one of my sketchbooks. I'm not very good at 2D art, but later I was able to actually bring her to life. And there's various elements in this character that I personally enjoy. There's obviously a celestial theme. You've got the skin patterns like stars, the nice blues decorated with gold, a nice corset of chains there between the tits. Always fun. Just a pleasant design to look at. She's got that sort of interesting body type where she can walk aloft on 2 feet, very tall, and I think she comes to about 9 feet, as is described in the book. And then she can also wander like a sort of what do you call it? Like a like a beast, like a wolf, like a dog. I did help Doug with the Wall review. I still talk to Doug actually. He was one of the first people to buy my book. But yeah, these are some of my characters. I have a book out if you don't know already. And yeah, this is Celia. And her in the book, she's got some psychological issues. She personifies them as the others and their sort of very negative thoughts. But she's a very positive character. I didn't want to depict sort of these sort of mental health issues as psychotic traits. I feel like when a character suffers from psychosis in most modern fiction, they're depicted as crazy. They'll have the angry eyes and the big grin, like, and it's like, oh, they're a villain. And it's like, well, people who actually suffer from these things, paranoia, schizophrenia, psychosis, you would never guess in a lot of cases, because one of the first things these people learn how to do is they learn how to hide, because they don't want to be burnt at the stake or seen as a freak and socially outcast. And that's one of the biggest fears we have as a culture dating back thousands of years. You wouldn't you probably know somebody who's going through this now, but you would never guess. They're very, very good, and they're always very positive and funny, and they're there for you, and you would never guess that they're going through some terrible shit. And that's what I wanted to get right with Celia. I wanted her to be a very positive character, friendly. You would think she was happy, but she basically she does her best to ignore and beat back a lot of what she's going through. And throughout the book, you see her gradually deteriorate, and it's sad to see her sort of in this sense of denial, because in the world that she lives in, it's very Darwinian, and they don't understand a lot of these things. So it sucks. But I didn't want her to come across as like a psychopath villain type character. I think they're done to death and they're fucking boring. Moving on, we have Dalton, which is Celia's best friend. Now, Dalton, you might recognize these stripes. We saw these on Bartholomew's, and Dalton has 8. He's a captain of 8, so he's not an officer. He is a captain. Normally, these stripes would not be part of his natural design. He is basically black and red, but obviously, when he's on duty, he has these markings. They are sort of these golden things. Based on the Black Shuck of old, which is why he was called Shuck in my sort of test series, Satellite City. Big fucking brutish dog, a sort of hound of hell. Now, Dalton is obviously Celia's friend. He has a bit of a temper, but he's also very charismatic, very persuasive, and he does his best to help her in the way that he can, but obviously he doesn't see everything that's going on with her. His design, again, quite demonic, but again, fun. I would say is that you don't wanna end up with a character that just acts how they look. You want a character in the same way that you don't want a character that acts how they sound. I like to play around with a lot of fun accents, like Celia talks in a bit of New York Bronx. Dalton is Cockney. Waxel is Irish. You've got some fun accents. But people aren't defined by what they sound like, and they're also not defined by what they look like. So having him be this sort of demonic dog, which is very symbolic of what Celia suffers from. I think Winston Churchill coined the term black dogs, which is the word used for it's sort of like depression. The fact that her best friend is a black dog is very amusing to me and fun. Again, it's nice to play around with these things. Next up, we have Elmira. Elmira is a bit of a new one to those who are not familiar with the book. Links in description, by the way. She is a dragon-esque sort of character. She has rainbow eyes, very good vision. She's a scout for Dalton. She's also a Yolsh, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So she's an officer of 5. She's a scout, very capable. She's a bit of a chatterbox. doesn't really know when to shut the fuck up. But that's part of the fun. She's sweet and soft in a way. But I wanted her wings to be... let's think. In the book, I've got the book in front of me and I'm not opening it. Why aren't I opening it? Basically, when she flies in the sky, because of the nature of her wings, let's see if I can find this. It sort of projects rainbows down onto the world. Oh, here we go. She was the vague image of a western dragon with a proud quadrupedal stance balanced between 4 muscly arms and 2 large legs. Her neck was long like a royal swan, and her face was that of a girlish greyhound, small-nosed and lovable. Her ears were stretched and pointed, but shadowed by 2 white-ribbed horns that curved behind her head like a gazelle. Elmira's tail was extensive and pretty, trailing like living twine wherever she roamed, land or sky. Her body was clad in creamy fur, though her wild mane shone pink in certain lights. She was opposite to Ripper, in that she always looked sad. Perhaps it was merely the shape of her eyes, but even then, beyond the radiant colours of rose, silver and sky was something mournful. Elmira's wings were large, light and feathery, like waves of optic fibre. In flight, light would phase through, casting rainbows to the world below. She stood at 6 feet, with 5 ranks of gold across the left thigh. So, yeah, when she flies, it's very pretty. Now, fun fact about this character. This is sort of a revival of original Winifred. For those of you who don't know, Winifred used to have wings. She used to be of this colour. And obviously she was very shy. I rebooted Winifred to a more, I suppose, intense character. And even though that was great and I really like where Winifred is at now, somebody in my Discord server quests drew the old Winifred, and I thought, you know what, that's a pretty good depiction. I like that. And this is where Elmira came from. So she's sort of the old Winifred reborn as a whole new character. Now we all know this one. This is Felicity. Now in the book she's a fowler, which means she's very small. She's like a fucking, she's an outsider to the city, which means she's not from the culture. I'm gonna leave it up to you guys to read the book and discover for yourself the where she's from and what her role is. Maybe I should read little extracts as I go through these characters. I've got popcorn stuck in the back of my fucking cunting throat, and I'm Jesus, fucking hell! Look at that con. See that?
No.
See it? Look.
Yeah, I can't now.
I fucking just coughed that up. Jesus Christ.
You need water?
No, I got my tea. Fuck me. Right. Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh, here we go. I'll do a bit of reading. I'll try and sell some copies. Her shape was that of a small horse, and she held herself quite in the same manner. She boasted 4 long legs, ending in navy blue claws, dull and soft. Her skin was mostly ashen, apart from the bluish patterns decorating her back, forearms, thighs, face, and the tips of her long ears. Small bumps of soft skin gave her shoulders definition, but her pot belly, small tail, and plump backside belied any threat. Her long neck held aloft a rabbit-like head, complete with wide violet eyes decorated with swirling blue like branching flora. Her facial patterns were accompanied by round spots of ocean blush twinkling upon pale cheeks. The girl's ears extended beyond the length of her body, twitching in response to the littlest of sounds. Atop her head was an ashen mane, branching over an endearing face in a tattered fringe. Finally, sprouting from her back, was a strong pair of fleshy wings, folded clumsily at her sides. When it became clear to her that Dalton would not attack unless provoked, she attempted to restore her dorky grin. So she's got no idea what the fuck's going on, essentially. Yeah, she's fun. Moving on. Felix. Actually, I should probably talk a bit more about the design, shouldn't I? So, Felicity is rather unique in the book in that she is almost entirely a prey animal. A lot of her design features exemplify this. She doesn't have claws. She doesn't have fangs. She doesn't have spines. She's got sort of got like the body of a horse, sort of long ears like a rabbit, a round belly. You know, she is essentially prey, which is very interesting because all the characters in the book are very sort of predatorial in design, which is a big contrast. Her arrival in the city, her being found, calls into question the nature of her evolution. How could something like this be born and live? Where is she from? What culture did she hail from? This is all the mystery of Felicity, and you will get to explore that both in the first book, or the beginnings of it, and the second book, of course. So I obviously went for a lot of prey animal type designs here. Now, originally in Satellite City, yes, the design is much unchanged. However, there's a little thing called taking advantage of certain happy accidents. So I found that Felicity's design was quite prey-like already, and so when I was writing the book, I thought, well, let's play into that. Let's make this interesting. And going back to Lucy, this is another example, is a design can start off as one thing, and then you as a writer can reverse engineer it into something with true meaning behind it, and that's perfectly viable. So if you've got any character designs that you're particularly a fan of, then yeah, think about what that design means and why it is the way that it is. Think about the nature of it and how you can work it into a story, and use that to the greatest effect that you can. Moving on to Felix. Now, Felix is essentially Yeshua's brother. He's related to the big man, and he is the editor of Starklook Inkhouse. Now, the Inkhouses are the press. They're the newspapers. Starklook is the most powerful and influential newspaper brand in the city, and Felix is the head of it. He also controls a lot of the ports in Old Frankby. So he's a powerful guy, but he's not as successful as Yeshua. He's also a bit shorter, and as you can see, he doesn't really have the confidence of his counterpart. So I'll read a little bit of Felix here. Felix rarely ventured from his office at the peak of Starklook, choosing to avoid the efforts of social interaction, even with his workforce. He much preferred his presence to be known and not experienced, preceded by his reputation always. The editor communicated to his staff through a collection of copper horns, projecting his voice to each level with an electrical buzz. When silent, he would play music down to the printing rooms, though oddly, none of the songs were Yeshua's, despite their popularity across Old Frankby. And so it was most peculiar for Felix to hear Yeshua's voice gracing the halls of his inkhouse in a masterful rendition of Vile's Lament, a legend of Western lands. Felix stood at 10 feet, his face a silver fox, crowned with 2 black horns and 4 drooping ears. 5 tails swayed behind as he hobbled back to his office, his cold eyes thawing with every laboured step. He had long white hair that trickled past his shoulders like icicles, and he walked with the aid of an elegant metal cane, various jewels encrusting the grip. The clothing he wore was Locketian, a dark compilation of silk, chain, and metal. So, I might actually leave this stream up just public as a video, just fun for people to find. But yeah, there's Felix. Obviously, you know, his inkhouse is called Starklook. He is a very stark character. He is basically completely white, even his eyes are silver. And of course he's an inker, so he resembles a piece of paper. And he has black like ink, so he's a very sort of... his design is very, linguistical on purpose. And he doesn't look very amused, so yeah, he's fun. Moving on to Fiona. Voice Fiona, I should say. She is the voice of scribes. Now, Fiona's department is very important, as it is her job to document all that is said through court proceedings and do a lot of the transcriptions. She is entirely red with a queenly crest, no eyes. Well, she does have eyes, they are in her hands. There's a bit of Del Toro here, and I like that. I think there's also a bit of Alien too, the Queen Alien. She is very much the Red Queen, and I can read a little bit of her introduction here, as you can hear me flipping through. Remember, guys, the book is available. Links in the description below. You know, it's a very good book, very entertaining. Not only is it imaginative, but it also has a good fucking story. If you don't believe me, you can read the reviews. Where the fuck are you, Fiona? Where are you? Come on. Where the fuck is she? Okay, we're coming up on her now. That's Waxel. Locket, proposal, voice of scribes. Okay. At the centre of the domed ceiling, looming high above the proceedings, was the snug workspace of the court scribes. It was a rotund office with a circular hole in the floor, an aperture through which the scribes could observe the talks below. The hole was guarded with fine wooden banisters, a circular desk fitted around it. The head of this department was Voice Fiona, a 12-foot female with 8 arms, a slender body, and a head possessing a queenly crest of sharp bone, like the blade of an executioner's axe. Her naked, crimson, furless frame was skeletal, but toned at the core. With long, needly nails, Fiona inked all that was said, 8 pages at a time. The voices below transmitted to her via tubic brass horns. Fiona had 8 eyes nestled into the palm of each hand, with only a sour pair of lips decorating her unemotional face. Her long neck craned as the opening session began to close for a brief adjournment, and she transcribed the closing remarks with accuracy and immediacy. She was sharp, efficient, and critical. So she's a very efficient character. You know, takes her job very seriously, but she's polite. She's not rude. So if you speak to her nicely, she will speak to you nicely in turn. She will not kill you for no reason. Fleischer. So Fleischer's an interesting one because he's not really in the book that much. He's in the second book. I can say that much. He does have an extended role. Fiona isn't deaf. No, you're thinking of Sylvia. We'll get to her later. So Fleischer is an interesting character because in Satellite City he was very much the straight man. Sullivan wasn't. Even though Sullivan was the human character, he was just as much of a freak as everyone else. I don't know. The thing that happened is Fleischer was the only character really in the cast that had any form of empathy. But as I wrote the book, the characters developed far more empathy on their own, and the world became less cartoonishly brutal and more interesting in that regard. And so Fleischer's role became diminished. He was no longer like the standout of like, okay, he's the only one who's got these more human sort of feelings, because a lot of the characters now have these sides to them. However, this does not mean Fleischer is relegated to the side. He is in the second book, I can confirm that, at the very least for the people who really do like Fleischer, and he does have a big role to play. In the first book, he also has a big role. The plot could not work without him, but I did need to sort of rethink the sort of role he would play, and I have done that. He cannot breathe fire, as it is not in the it's not in the list of armaments these characters possess. But yes, a nice blue, calm design, black and blue, mostly just blue. He's very critical. He's got 6 eyes, very much like Quinn, except his eyes are sharp, whereas Quinn's are a bit murky. One thing that I could do is I could do Fleischer and Quinn at the same time. This is Quinn. Now, we all remember him from Satellite City, I'm sure. Now, this is Voice Quinn. He is the voice of records, and he has a very important role. And Fleischer actually works for him. And the best way to sort of outline the differences and choices I made in their design is to read a little extract, which is coming up now at some point, which is coming up. Where the fuck was it? Okay, it was after this. After this. Whoa, where are you? Okay. The best way I can outline the differences between Quinn and Fleischer is by reading a little extract. So, Whisper Fleischer was beneath Voice Quinn, and that was the fact of their relationship, Felicity observed. Despite this, the two had a rather competitive history, and thus a productive one. Fleischer's eyes were sharp and immaculate. Quinn's were large and murky. Fleischer's ears were small and ignorant. Quinn had 6, all magnificent. And while Quinn had his chemical senses, Fleischer had his teeth set with black venom. He would often use this poison as ink for personal notes, knowing Quinn could never read them due to the distress it would bring. Both were well-mannered, well-read, well-written, and well-spoken. Both were great assets to Sombra and his library. Both were rather brilliant. But Voice Quinn was in possession of a quality alien to Fleischer which propelled him further by far: resolve. Despite his disability, Quinn knew more words, had written more articles, mastered more fields, and conquered Fleischer soundly in debate. But again, these were simply the observations of Felicity, although she had watched them a fair while. So Quinn obviously cannot see as well. He does have a bit of a fuck up with his eyes. That's why he needs these rather interesting spectacles. But despite this, he has propelled himself further than Fleischer, which I think is interesting. So that's probably the best way to summarize. Next up, we have Freda. Yes, indeed. The great and terrible Freda. Now, Freda is in the prologue. She is the largest Kivik animal on record. She is absolutely fucking massive. Obvious inspirations from Kronos, the mother of chaos. And it was this big bitch that Locket had to behead and humiliate to create what would become her civilization. So, yeah, she's very much a historical figure. She exists in the past. She is decapitated, and her body splayed across the mountains. This is not the end of Freda's influence, however, but you can see design traits coming through from Locket, Sombra, and Winifred, who are her descendants. Now, obviously, this is a very stark sort of character. It's sort of, again, it's on purpose. It's perfection in a way. She's nice and smooth. She's it's like silver and frost. She's of the elements. She blends in with the landscape. She's just an absolutely massive titan. But yes, she was indeed defeated by Locket, Sombra, and Winifred in the times of old, who then went on to build the Underbirth, the city. And you get to hear all about Freda in the prologue. And for those of you who have heard the prologue of the second book, for those of you who have read the first, I did a little private stream to, what was it, like 50 people? It was quite a few people, actually, who tuned in. Oh, shit, I think it was more who ended up seeing it in total. Yeah, it was more, yeah. For those of you who heard the prologue of the second book, you know, Freda's influence is far-reaching. So, yeah, that's Freda. Next, we have another one of my favourites. This is Gatsby, as he is referred to in the book. Now, Gatsby is a fun one. You also may know him as Fontaine, so I figured now would be a good idea to give you a little idea as to where Fontaine's design came from. So, if anyone has played a game called BioShock, you may recognize, if I can fucking find what I'm looking for. Now, where did I put it? Here we go. You may recognize this image. Fontaine Dandy Dentures. So I was playing through BioShock, and in the episode that Fontaine was released in back in 2017, you may notice that it was children, have you ever heard the boogeyman before? No, of course you haven't, for you're much too good, I'm sure. It was called Hush Hush. That song features in BioShock. And this is Frank Fontaine is a character in BioShock, and this is a poster that I saw while playing the game, and obviously I thought that is a great idea for a character design. 3 mouths, he's a talker, he's a con artist, he's suave. So you can find inspiration for character designs fucking everywhere. Fontaine, of course, is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good stuff sort of hidden throughout, which we will go over. So, obviously, he's a two-faced asshole, essentially. You never know what he's saying. He's probably one of the best liars in the city. There is a lot of fun moments. There are a lot of fun moments with him. Now, you obviously have his feet here, because I decided that shoes don't exist in the Kiviwak, because why would they? And he has these, which makes these gloves. So he's got these gloves on. And basically he used to be a toy maker, and he is now a con artist, basically doing what he can to make ends meet after the trade revolution. And he hangs around with Basil and Teaser. So I think I will find a little part featuring Fontaine, just to give you an idea of his sort of personality. Where should we go? Where should we go? A very 1940s sort of design as well. I think his design is reflective of the sort of voice that I would give him. Where the fuck am I looking? Here we go. Just a bit before this, I think. Okay. I'll try and get a bit of dialogue here. Okay. Gatsby turned to the ringmaster's rattish face. I want half. Come now, you can't mean it, said the ringmaster, crossing his arms. I do mean it. Without my influence, this bloodhole would be a barren pit. It's better to take half of something than all of nothing, my old mucker. Of course, and I appreciate your subtlety, and don't think for a moment that just because my sway is subtle that it isn't there. It is, old boy. Do you think you'd have half that crowd out there if I hadn't convinced the other ringmasters to host their fights here? You have the largest pit in Vileborn, and now, thanks to me, you might actually make something of it. I used to make good profit off this place, I did, said the ringmaster, walking to the window and gazing out across the town. But then that fire, the Yolsh, stories spread. The whole place is closed up. It's not been good for business. Gatsby joined him at the window, resting a leathery hand upon his shoulder. Tell me, have you ever broken a law? His voice was weak and tired. No, of course not. It gets easier. I don't want it to get easier. Gatsby smiled with all three of his mouths. So young, so sure in your convictions. The ringmaster was silent. Gatsby stepped across the lavish office to a large desk of stone. From a glass bottle he poured 2 drinks and handed one to the ringmaster, still at the window. he adopted a much softer tone. Before the age of Locket's Law, there came the age of the Long Watch. That age came to an end when Roger Penny thought it wise to introduce tokens, coins of metal with which to buy goods. It worked, for a time, but sure enough the city turned sick, lusting after the tokens over the items they bought, hoarding them, forging them, killing for them. A disaster. Gatsby scrunched his face, and his eyes shone. But the more I think about it, I realize that it wasn't sickness that had taken the city. No, it was nature, the truth of us. You speak coldly of it, the ringmaster said. You weren't there. Gatsby reached into his breast pocket. He pulled loose a clenched fist and opened his fingers. Within his palm were 7 metal coins, and etched into each in tiny civic writing was the statement, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of this token. The ringmaster watched as Gatsby pocketed the ancient tokens, those long-forgotten promises. Dress us, clean us, endow us with riches, walla, but we are still animals, screaming in the dark, raving tooth and claw. He turned. Take what you want, laddie. Take it all. So, there's a bit of Fontaine or Gatsby. So he's a little bit of a fucker, but you know, he's cool. Now moving on, Greta, the big Gret. So shit. So obviously bat-like features. Everybody's scared of Greta in the book. They're scared of what she hears, what she sees. Her weapon is blackmail. So I definitely wanted a bat-like character. Somebody who has these sort of features built in. She's a bit of a mystery. She's one of the bigger mysteries in the book, and indeed the whole series, really. I won't go into too much detail because I do want you guys to read it and discover for yourself, but she does work with Fontaine, and she ends up being rather integral to one of the key plots, if not the key plot. But I would be happy to keep her a mystery, because that is what she is. Moving on. Harlow. Now, obviously this character it's not exactly entirely appropriate, but I have taken the appropriate precautions. I did want to talk about her design because she's one of my favourites. I should have used the lorb, but yeah, Harlow is a doll of Yeshua's circus, which is similar to, remember how I said that Boutica was a dolly? Well, Harlow is a doll, and the dolls are basically, they own doll houses, and Harlow is one of Yeshua's prized dolls. And so she manages the dollies, and she's basically in charge of a lot of the operations. Her accent is a blend of, well, fucking all sorts of accents, really. She's very provocative. She's sort of an agent of black lust. And the reason why her design is probably my favourite, or one of my favourites, is because she's both predator and prey. Now, if you look at her face, she's obviously got the overall design of a rabbit, of a hare. She has the long ears, the buck teeth, and sort of everything like that. But the ears are sharp, the teeth are sharp, claws, you know, all this stuff, you know. She is essentially a predator disguised as prey. She is a literal example of a wolf in sheep's clothing, because she used to be ex-Yolsh, and she can kick the shit out of you. Which is another reason why, if you look at the ends of her limbs, they're black. So she's very soft in the middle. She's, you know, plump. She's quite, I suppose, alluring. But then her limbs descend into these inky weapons of death. And for that reason, she's really one of my favourite characters. Even, and if you look at her nose, it is actually shaped like a black heart. Which was actually a suggestion of my friend Erica, which I really like. She is a killer slut bunny. Is probably the best way to describe her. And I will read a little part from a chapter involving her. It is one of my favourite chapters. She's a student of Yeshua, if not Yeshua's one of Yeshua's prime students. Where is it? Let's have a look. I won't do her description. I will instead go for a little bit later. And I will go for... Let's have a look here. Okay. The doors of Saviour's dollhouse were open once again, and into its mouth poured a wide collection of appetites, desires, and palates. From all across the town came tailors, toy makers, freelancers, inkers, and outsiders, all seeking to fulfill curiosities that would otherwise distract. Here in Saviour's dollhouse, heavy burdens were lightened, anxieties set at ease, dreams made true. Clients were welcomed to indulge in the fantasy, certainly, but all remembered the first rule of the dollhouse, and woe betide any who forgot. Javert entered with his heart beating in a rhythm to the music, letting it take him, soothe his ragged nerves. Several dollies hummed to the manipulation of metal industrial instruments, creating a pulse-pounding rhythm that rattled in the chest. It was the sound of mania, shaking the clients from their doubts. Enter, enter, the music said to them. Welcome to the thrill, the chase and capture. Enter, enter. Javert let the pulse roll through him, washing his fears away as he merged with the crowd of dancing animals. Electrical, powerful, disco-esque. The Inca moved to the open floor, tasting the air, the colours, the fragrance of dollies. Some were tall, some were short, some were heavy, some were light. Male and female, they danced naked among the caressing clients, luring them into the great performance. And there she was, moving elegantly toward him, the world blurred around her. Harlow, stripped of cloth and glass, Harlow, stripped of cloth and glass, presented herself with a soft smile, arms tucked anxiously behind her back. She's not anxious, basically. For those who don't know, Harlow is essentially a succubus. So, a lot of her job involves... what's the word? What word am I thinking of, Carmen?
What was it?
A lot of her work involves... seducing people. She's one of Yeshua's greatest weapons. And to be honest, you can't really blame them. Moving on. We have Hayden. Now this is a general. Obviously, you have 6 here and the other 4 here. He is a general of 10. 10 is the maximum rank. Hayden is a very deadly, dangerous motherfucker. You do not want to get on the wrong side of this fella. We will... obviously, he's based on a sort of hammerhead shark. Very sharp features. Loads of eyes nestled into the crest. I did want something aquatic. I wanted something interesting. You know... Where is this description of him? Aha, here we go. Okay. Hayden stood before the gathering storm of Yolsh at an incredible 24 feet. His body was thick-skinned, cool grey, rich with spines and bumps. With clawed feet and dense, muscled legs, he paced with quaking steps. His belly and chest were a lighter shade of soft silver, and his arms, like the flesh of a god, teased Herculean power. Tiny white spots decorated the deep blues of his body, including the vast tail that swayed from his upper back, sprouting from between his mighty shoulders, alongside 4 protrusions of lengthy, tapering bone. His head was akin to a hammerhead shark comprised of bone and blades. Nestled across the sprawling crests were a total of 26 red, beady eyes. From his chin dangled 6 wriggling tendrils, with an additional 4 sprouting above silvery lips, like a living moustache. Hayden was a mind of ruthless ambition, with a body equipped to see them through. So, yeah. This guy's a big motherfucker. You don't want to piss him off. Moving on. And of course, obviously, what you'll notice is a lot of the characters resemble an animal from Earth, but they are an exaggeration. So as I said, the book is very much designed to be, the book series is a parody of the animal kingdom, and that includes people too. It includes human culture. So as you read, you will notice that a lot of things are they're exaggerated, wild, and that's on purpose. So obviously this is sort of a shark, very predatorial, very powerful, a force of nature. Speaking of forces of nature, Helgen. Now, of course, Helgen, unfortunately, had to be censored a little bit as well. She is one of my favourite designs. A lot of them are my favourites, to be honest. But Helgen, to be honest, is good because she used to be somewhat, I would say, a little boring. And I wanted to give her this sort of... Remember how earlier I was talking about the Gorgon? Yeah, I wanted a character in the book that was sort of that shape. She is a giant fucking snake woman. And what's good about her, Helgen, is that she is a politician. She's a master of economics. Which plays very well into her character, because she's all about playing both sides, doing what she can. She is well over 100 feet in length. She's bigger than Hayden. She's fucking huge. But yeah, she is literally a political snake. Whoever said that, where the fuck? Yeah, Toby draws 535. A political snake. Yes. Where can I find a good extract of Helgen? Where is she? Oh yeah, it's around here, isn't it? Yeah, okay. I'm on the right track here. It is just before here. Okay. What I can do is I can do yeah, go on, why not? Here we go. Oh, I've got her description is earlier in the book. I can read that. I was going to read the other part, but the description's also kind of good. Wherever it was. But no, it's alright. I'll read the thing. Helgen always looked up, despite her size. Wait, actually, didn't I read this in the... I did. I read this in the thing. What I'll do is I'll read her description, because I'm sure I read that in the interview with Lucy Lacemaker, so let's give someone something new to munch on. It's not far from here, actually. That's the voice of the casino. Voice of the Yolsh. Locket of the proposal. There we go. Okay, so let's find Helgen's description. Here we go. Helgen was a prime example of power and weight. Her arms were firm and solid, ending in a display of polished sapphire nails. Between proud shoulders hung an enormous bust, and below was a stomach clad in fat and muscle. Much of her rattled like staunch jelly, with every movement too sudden or swift. Helgen's skin was a mixture of shades, lilac, heather, amethyst, but up her middle and saturating her face was beautiful pale blush. Her face was noble and carved with firm features, a strong jaw, white fangs, a snakish nose, and plump turquoise lips that shared their shade with her wandering eyelashes like the wings of an alien butterfly. Helgen's hair was long and wild, and it trickled down her naked torso like a river of liquid gemstones, shrouding various portions of her chest, depending on her posture. The ears were of similar shades, and like spitting purple flames, they crowned her head. Oh no, I changed that. I changed that to blue flames, didn't I? Her eyes seemed beauty incarnate, like deep ponds of electric water, hypnotic even. Below her womanly upper half sprawled the tail of some monstrous python, a meandering collection of muscles stretching over 100 feet, though Helgen would level herself somewhere between 30 and 20, pushing out her pelvis in a provocative manner. The underside of her tail bore the same pink as her belly, though the back was coated in gemstone fur, matching her hair. Finally, around her waist, held in place by a belt of shining gold, was a royal red dress to cover her gower and frame the enormous tail below. Like a hungering political gorgon, Helgen would set about her affairs, and every action she took was calculated. So that's Helgen. So obviously you have the illustrations, but I wanted to also do written descriptions because, you know, some people are going to get the audiobook. So, yeah. Let me just make a oh shit, I just pressed the wrong button there. So yeah, a very snakish design, very gluttonous design. She is a very greedy character, manipulative. Give me a second. I need to move this. Okay. Spectrum. There we go. Just keep a note of that. And yeah, I like the design. The audiobook will have will be out this year, which I will be narrating, and then next year I'll be doing whatchamacallit?
Audio drama.
The audio drama, yes. Next we have Heisen. She of course features in the book as a full Kivik animal. Very similar design, except that I didn't want to make her as much of a literal squirrel. So I gave her more hominoid features, the precision grip, a bigger body, something to allow her to, you know, emote a little more. She's an interesting one. I probably won't read an extract of her though, unfortunately, because I don't want to spoil too much. It's character descriptions and little extracts, but in terms of Felicity, in terms of Heisen, I do want to keep her. You know, I do want to give people a reason to obviously participate in the story. She is a rotund creature, with a bit of green and a bit of orange in her eyes. She's literal cinnamon roll type features here. And yeah, quite a lot of prey animal features as well, but not entirely. She does still have those claws. She's not like Felicity in that regard. So, much fun. Now moving on to Locket, one of the prime figures in the book. She is the grand voice of the city, which basically is essentially like the president or prime minister. She is the head of the culture. She's the one that essentially destroyed Freda. And this is one of the designs that has a lot more thought into it. There's a lot of things at play here. So, first of all, she's very royal. You've got her crown of antlers, like a stag. A very queenly sort of figure, and her colours are basically the afterlife in a sense. You have white for heaven, red for hell, and black for the void, for nothingness. Locket is very much almost a personification of death. There's a lot of language in the book referring to her coat as a reaper's cloak. She is an objective, mechanical-minded political figure who acts not on volition or emotion, but just pure logical thinking. And it doesn't really matter what the morality is. She doesn't care. She doesn't believe in it. She only believes how how things go together in a more structured things. Everyone fucking behave yourselves. God, good on. I'm glad that I didn't. Okay, I could sell a lot of copies right now. There are 3 Locket illustrations in the book, right? These are 2 of them. Now the third one is Locket without clothes on. So if you want to see that, buy the fucking book. So if you want to see Locket in a state of undress, you're going to have to buy the book, aren't you? Oh no, what are you going to do? Yeah. Same with all the other characters that have been censored thus far. You want the... I've got the uncensored version right here. You hear this? You hear this? That's the sound of the uncensored version of the book. You know? And I can tell you this right now. Locket has 4 tits. So, you know, you're getting twice for your money. You're going to buy the book now, ain't you? But yeah, I really like her design. It's there's a lot of control, a lot of manipulation in her tails. You've got the very strong midsection, the frame, swirling sort of bones. And what I'll do is I'll read her description to convince even more people to buy the book. I'm selling this thing. I'm cooking. Shut up and let me cook. Where are we here then? Okay. I will read her description now. Locket was of lofty mould, indeed. Actually, let me adjust this illustration so you can see both. Locket was of lofty mould, indeed, a towering beast of 12 feet, with slick skin of black ash, crowned with royal crimson antlers, twisting and coiling like the branches of some mad olden tree. Her toes and fingers were scarlet cleavers, curving like blades, and from each ankle posterior came swirling extrusions of rushing red bone. Her thighs were thick with sinew and dark, tight flesh, and from behind came a tail that split to 20 others, wriggling, drifting like shadowy water weeds. The sides of her long neck were slashed with heavenly whites and hellish reds, and the head above was the visage of absolute power, a godly stag, grand, womanly, sharply carved and symmetrical. At the end of her snout was a pair of large nostrils and teasing cherry lips. Up the ridge of her nose, flecking her cheeks and forehead, were white freckles twinkling like stars. Locket's eyes were finely aged and somewhat sorrowful, as if wise to some great tragedy, unknown to all others. They had ruby sclera, emerald irises, and shining pupils of gold. Long white lashes bloomed from the crimson patterns encircling each eye like carnival makeup, the queen of the Civic Circus. Around her eyes were 15 others, tiny things that winked at each side of her face like a noble insect. The roots of her hair were jet black, fading then to fiery crimson, concluding with cold, snowy tips. The mane sprawled untempered down her back, with her coat open at the spine to accommodate the great display. 4 long, sharp ears took in the sounds. I should probably just adjust this book. It's a bit heavy on one side. 4 long, sharp ears took in the sounds, each tacked to a different conversation, and she followed them all. Locket, as one might expect, came dressed in the Locketian fashion. Her legs were wrapped in dark shadow-catcher silk, tickling her naked feet. The belt around her waist was blood-iron chain, a deep red collection of linking metal, from which her own assemblage of keys dangled, even more than Sombra, who stood to her left. Locket's grey naked stomach was carved with muscle. Even soft and relaxed as it was, all could see the core power of this animal. From her chest, four breasts bloomed, the smaller pair shadowed by the larger above. A blood red lock brace dressed in... Hang on. I'm going to move this. I'm struggling to read this because My eyes are currently burning. For those who didn't see the beginning of the stream, I've just finished Dark Souls, so you'll have to forgive my reading comprehension. That's better. From her chest, 4 breasts bloomed, the smaller pair shadowed by the larger above. A blood-red lock brace dressed the area, a silky sort of waistcoat, pressing her bosoms together to form a line of cleavage, decorated with a necklace of precious gemstones. And then there was her glazer coat, an article of fashion so utterly striking that few could hold the look without proper tutoring. The material was of black halo cotton, a fabric so soft and delicate it seemed ethereal. It encompassed Locket's shoulders, arms, back and skirt, trailing past the knees, washing over her ankles. The coat bore elaborate floral patterns, vast swirling stitches of scarlet and pearl. Aurelian metalwork was scattered throughout, forming intricate locking mechanisms up the collar, thorny blades at the shoulder, a web of interweaving designs from the back to the base of the skirt. Locket kept the coat open, the silvery latches framing her body like teeth. We got there in the end, didn't we? Sorry about that. Oh. Okay, so yeah, that's Locket. Now, you're going to buy the book, ain't you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Moving on to Ludwig. Ludwig is a fowler in the book, so he's only 5 feet. I've always liked his design, again, because his throat, his neck, the most vulnerable area in his body, is surrounded by these defensive mechanisms. I was able to make this work in favor of his sort of more passive character. He's very brooding. He's very timid, and so this threatening display, protecting his most vulnerable sort of area, which is where you get your head sliced off, is quite fitting. Obviously, none of the yellow has come through yet, although he will mature eventually. There is some around the teeth. And yeah, he's an Inca in the book. He works for Wiley, who we will meet later. And again, so you got the pale sort of skin, the black clothing, which I think reflects his character rather well indeed. Yeah. You'll see more of Ludwig's final design in the second book. This obviously is him in his youth, so enjoy it. It's kind of cool. Methusa. Now Methusa is a character some may not have heard of or seen before. She is a very soft and gentle character with some interesting ideas, and obviously I wanted to go with whites and pinks. I wanted that to sort of shine through. So if I can find, she is majestic, I think. She's obviously based off a giraffe. I think she stands at about 10 feet. I'm not sure. So yeah, she's based on a giraffe. So she's got long legs. She's got the round belly, long neck, the tail. Sort of big, heavy sort of animal. You can usually tell what sort of vibe I'm going for the character based on if I go for more prey features or not. Again, like Harlow, she looks like a prey animal, but she's actually a predator. But with in Methusa's case, there's much more softness behind her. So, and also the way she dresses, it's very humble. She doesn't dress up in like a big fancy way. She is exactly the type of character that would read you a bedtime story. So, yeah. Let's find a little extract of Methusa. Now, no spoilers in the chat, guys. I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
Someone has a question.
Oh. How do their genetics work? Sorry. How does the genetics work for Kivs? Do they all have their own unique quirks? Sort of. It's like a sort of like a yes and no sort of thing. It is explained in the book. It is explained in the book by Quinn of all people. Maybe we will revisit that at some point. But yes, they all have their own sort of unique little quirks. What am I doing? I'm trying to find... Oh yeah, Methusa. Where is it? Okay. Okay. To the centre of the room she walked in silence, looking at her wards with a physician's worry and the love of a mother. "Time for a story, I think," she announced, then watched as all the little heads turned to her, settling down to listen. "Can we hear about the monster again?" Heisen asked. "Are you sure you won't get frightened?" The whole room replied, "We won't, we won't." "Very well then," Methusa said, resting upon a large and pretty couch with her little ones all gathered close. The scene was alike to an antiquated oil painting, a picture to be interpreted by historians, merely guessing at the meaning. "Long ago, there was a girl who lived in the shadow of a monster. Over hills and valleys the beast would roam, filling its belly with all it saw, every flower, stone, and animal. A mindless evil. But the girl, only a fraction of its size, though terrified, called upon the animals to fight. Together they felled the monster. However, the fear remained, clinging to the girl like a sickness. Desperate for an end to it, she pulled her hearts from her chest and replaced her blood with black oil. She constructed a mighty machine, so tall it cast the world in shadow, and into its mouth she dropped every living thing." "Why?" asked Heisen. "Because, with no hearts, she could not feel their pain, their fear, and with veins filled with oil, she saw their blood as foreign, something easily wasted. The girl wanted no mindless monsters, and so she built her machine to test, to ensure the quality of her fellow animals. Some would leave the machine clean, dressed in silk and hatted, while others would drown in the dark, their lungs filled with black tar, their blood for fuel. A new evil had arisen, not of flesh, not of mindlessness, no, far more dangerous, a civilized evil. The girl had become what she vanquished long ago, a monster." So that's Methusa reading a little story. And yes, if you buy the book, these are 2 of 3 illustrations. If you buy the book, you do get Methusa's tits. So that's an incentive right there. Who are you laughing at, Colin? You want to see this? Buy the book. She is a hippie. She's literally a Kivik hippie. That's exactly, Want to see these giant tits? Buy the book. Now. Okay. You want to see this worm? You want to see what's behind this coat? Buy the book. This is Nathaniel. Now, Nathaniel is the paradigm judge. I like this design because he is a very depressed sort of guy. Basically, being the paradigm judge means not really having any friends, because no matter who you talk to, there's always that question of, oh yeah, favors for favors and doing all this shit, you're biased, etc., etc. So he's a very lonely guy. He doesn't particularly like the job. It's sort of worn him out. He does do the job rather well, but he's quite depressed. and his design reflects on it. He's been completely zapped of all his energy. He's just a grey, tired sort of fella. Let me see here. Okay. Alone, Nathaniel relaxed. The bones in his back cracked and groaned as he stretched his body over the top rail of his chair, pale skin brushing against illustrious clothing. The coat he wore was black and embroidered with silver stitches, further decorated with Aurelian metalwork. It was a coat of many pockets, filled with a vast collection of documents, among other things. The chamber he called home was a substantial opening of wood and metal framework, delightfully forged. Walls bedecked with books, floor blanketed with elaborate rugs, various tables peppered upon it. Even the ceiling held a pool of water for him to bathe and relax. An appropriate use of space, and with wise seafoam light mingling with strands of butter and rose, it softened it all. 10 wooden pillars connected the ceiling to the floor, doubling as pathways to each relative surface. Upon the pillars were his framed accomplishments, laws passed and approved. So he's he's fun. Tell you who really are fun: Oliver Cost and Roger Penny. I like these two because their designs go hand in hand. Silver and sort of gold, thin, fat, big eyes, small eyes. So Cost is all about appraisal, seeing the value in things. Penny is all about expenditure, getting things that he wants. And in the book, these two work rather closely together. Oliver Cost is the voice of material, and Roger Penny is the voice of tax. They do not particularly like one another, but they have built a sort of, I suppose, something of a relationship. Let's see if I can find an extract of them together that doesn't involve spoilers. That doesn't.
Could omit some text.
What?
Could omit some text.
I could. There are a few good scenes where they meet and chat. Where are we going here? It wasn't there. It was sort of here. Yeah, it was here, wasn't it? It was. Yeah, here we go. Okay, here we go. Oliver Cost seldom ventured to the office of Roger Penny. The two did business in the world outside, shook hands, smiled, and waved to the press. But Oliver Cost and Roger Penny never drank together, nor ate together. And they never spoke as friends. And so when word reached Oliver's ears that Roger had called for him to visit, his white marionette face creaked to life, intrigued. Oliver walked without sound, like a creeping ghost through haunted halls. His moonish eyes darted to every trinket and bauble decorating his path. He judged worth and value like innocence and guilt, deeming objects either great or foul. As voice of material, Oliver saw things as components, and nothing escaped his appraisal. He was very much the same with individuals, measuring each by tiny, obsessive details. The methods of Roger Penny were diametrically opposed. Penny saw only the bigger picture, and his vision stretched far indeed. Each knew the other's strength, and each studied the other's weaknesses. Cost and Penny never broke bread, but business they did do indeed. I think that's a really good passage, actually. It summarizes their relationship exceedingly well. They work together. They know all about each other. They are often in each other's company professionally, but they really do not fucking like the cut of each other's jib. So yeah. Now, interesting thing about Roger Penny, and this is something I sometimes like to do with some of my character designs. is, we zoom in here, is that a little bit of Winifred in the lips? Maybe in the horns? So I do like to play around with the idea that certain characters bear resemblance and some slight relation to others. But I will neither confirm nor deny. I just like putting in those sorts of details into the characters because I think it's fun. And it would make sense. So, yeah. And if we zoom into Oliver Cost's face, for no other reason than the fact that I really like his face. Look at him. He's got big fucking eyes. Moving on. We have Patches. Now, Patches is an interesting one. He is another character from the book, obviously. He's got a sort of a weak, thin, crooked frame, soft eyes. He's a Fowler, and he is one of Methusa's wards. And I think I can read a little extract. You may notice that he is holding in his hand a plush of Locket. I'll give a little extract for him. I should sell that Locket doll. Where the fuck was it? Oh, it's just after here. Oh, that's perfect. I just literally just turned to the page. Okay. Well, almost. Okay. Here we go. He's got a pocket Locket. The largest of the wards was a shadow in the corner, slumped and dying, like a puppet with no strings. His name was Patches, some rotting thing, clutching his stomach as if it held a constant fire within. He was no larger than an ape, and similarly shaped. Only his worn face was something close to a human boy, if not for the long horns, the pointed ears, the wide eyes of a gazelle. His thin tail was coiled around his left leg, squeezing it in demand of sensation, distraction, anything normal. "How have you been, Patches, sweet thing?" Methusa asked, leaning over with the back of her hand to his forehead. Patches did not answer. He did not speak. He never had. "Fresh blankets, perhaps? Some water?" This was her softest voice. "Nothing." "Very well, I'll bring those along." Methusa was in the habit of imagining his personality, pulling his answers from the littlest of things, and something in his eyes when she spoke. He whimpered like a wounded dog, clinging to a plush toy of Locket of all things. With button eyes, soft antlers, and woolen claws, the grand voice was of comfort. Despite Methusa's attempts to separate the two, Patches insisted upon the toy, the soft woolen lady, that symbol of death. So yeah, there's Patches. He's an interesting one. If you want to know more about him, then read the book. Links in description. Now we have covered Quinn. There he is, the boy. A few more things about his design. Moth-like features. He's got a soft belly without fur. He's got his antennas. He is quite flamboyant, I think. He does have that sort of quality to him. He's a nice guy. He's chill. And I think he's another example of a character that just like you can survive in this world without killing or being a monster. You know, in fact, bloodletting is looked down upon, and Quinn is just, you know, he's a very sensible and reasonable sort of fella. So, you know, you're in no danger around this guy unless you are trying to attack him, in which case you will probably die. One that probably will kill you is Ripperzuela, or Ripper for short. Now he works with Elmira and Bartholomew's, and they are in Dalton's court, as you can see. He has the rank here, rank of 5. Now this guy is very demonic, and I like that. A very classic sort of look. And another reason for his design is he's got a bit of a temper. Nothing overt, but something in the main. He looks like fire, which is something that I wanted. You've got degrees of heat across the body, so he probably will kill you. Let me see if I can find his description somewhere here. Oh, there's his illustration right there, but I don't think his description's here. No, it's not. It's earlier. It's earlier than this. It's here. Okay. Ripper was next to emerge. His full name was Ripper's Whaler, though few ever called him by it. A 7-foot male was he, with 5 ranks of gold to the left shoulder. He was akin to a great red werewolf with demonic horns and silver fangs. His bipedal stance was aided by powerful legs punctuated by inky claws. He possessed the mane of a golden lion born of hellfire, with 2 yellow eyes burning within black sockets. His ears were pointed like the thorns of an imp, and his tail moved like a whip of flame. His face was beastly and bearded, animated by deep folds of anger. Sir, his gravelly voice was the stuff of legend. So, yeah. There he goes. He is quite a fun character. Tell you who else is fun. Sally Sefton. So, those who saw the book trailer or have heard the first few lines that they're quoting Sally. She is Lucy's mentor in chapter 1. Very nice sort of character. Now, Sally Sefton is a little bit of a nod to one of my teachers in college. It was South Sefton College. And she basically reminded me that I do like to write. After high school, I really didn't want to write anymore. I just got fucking so bored of the practice, all the essays, all the fucking shit. I didn't like it. But I went to college, and then I had a teacher, and she was called Sally, and she loved The Great Gatsby, and that's, as you can see, I've worked that in here with the blue eyes and the spectacles. And she had frizzy hair as well, and she would just talk about how much she loved this book, and she was a great teacher. And so I thought, fuck it, I'm going to give it another try. And I got into some more creative writing, and it worked. And here I am with my book. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to have a character in here that is a little nod to that. So that's Sally Sefton. And as you can see, there's Lucy with her with her fluffy heart chest, looking a little on edge. There we go. Just got a few more left. I'm starting to fall asleep here, but it's okay. Next one is kind of fun. Next one is I think you'll like. This is Saxon, voice of ink. So remember how I said that Felix was the editor of Starklook, which is the most prominent newspaper? Well, this is Saxon. He is the voice of ink. So he's like the press officer of the political world. Big guy, intimidating sort of guy, spider guy. I don't know what his canon event was, but it was probably this book actually. Let's see if I can find his illustration. Obviously, I don't need to go into too much detail about his design. Black, inky spider. It's very obvious what the sort of things that I'm going for. This giant enemy spider. What the fuck was the first rule? No, okay, it wasn't that. Was it? No, it was earlier. What's funny is I flipped to this page by accident a lot. Okay, no, it's earlier than this. Okay, it's earlier than this as well. It's earlier than this. Oh shit, no, it's after this. It's like right after this. It's not Helgen. Okay, well, we're getting there, boys. Don't worry. Okay. Where are you? Okay, here we go. I got it. Saxon, voice of ink, a dark collection of limbs and hair, moved like a black tarantula, creeping onto the stage with 10 mighty legs, 4 arms folded behind his back. Above the arachnoid base was a torso defined with muscle, and atop his head was a tangle of wild black hair, 10 crimson eyes staring through the shadows. His lips were dark, and the fangs behind were pearly white. 2 grey horns shot from his head, adding 4 feet to a height of 12. All Incas looked to him, stricken by the presence and command of this legendary press officer. Saxon cast a critical eye to them as a teacher would his students, then gave a firm nod to Waxel. So yeah, we'll zoom in a bit here, get a closer look, because I do like a lot of the details in his illustration. So yeah, this is a guy that you do not want to fuck with, as you can see. He has a mean bite. He will destroy you. But obviously he's a press officer, so he's extraordinarily reasonable. So there is that. Now this next character isn't a press officer or an editor, but she is an Inca. She is an Inca of Ruthergush, Shale, the lead writer of Ruthergush. And yeah. So some of you may remember her from Satellite City. She's had a bit of an update to her design. She's got a fluffy chest here with bits of peach. Snakish face, a very gentle character. Obviously, I was able to work in her long claws into the fact that she is an Inca, because they are very good for writing the Civic tongue. So let's see if we can't find... You'll probably notice this, but like a lot of my characters consist of 2 main colours. Sometimes 3, but mostly 2. I like to use colours that work well together. I like strong shapes, varied shapes. I don't like doing the same thing twice. Sometimes there are only so many forms that really make sense because you don't want it to look stupid. So sometimes you can repeat a few things. But generally, I like experimenting with posture. Like the way Shale holds herself is very unique. It's fun. Character design is fun when you're not doing the same thing over and over again. And if you are going to use similar shapes, then do something new with it. Give a... Yeah, no, Shale's an adult. She's pretty old. She's a fully grown woman. Where was Shale's introduction? Here we go. To his right was Shale, a proud-looking female teetering on snobbish. She stood at 9 feet, watching Wiley, eager for feedback. With every glance from him, her snake-like face would light, beady eyes of aqua sparkling with anticipation, only to drop when no comments came. Her neck was especially long, and from her head to her lower back came a glottorial mohawk of hair, a thorough mix of turquoise and peach. Her arms were long and toned, knuckles resting upon the floor. From her fingertips came ferocious aqua nails, outrageously long, curling behind like the folded wings of a bat, stripped of tissue. Turquoise fur covered her legs and chest, leaving her tail, neck, belly, arms, and freckled face exposed with smooth, creamy flesh. So yeah, she's a nice character. She's fun. She's very much a sort of she's sort of like a big sister figure to Lucy Lacemaker and Ludwig. She keeps an eye out on them. She's got a lot more experience than them. She's older than them. She's like the sort of punk sister that sort of knows how to break the rules and make sure that you know how to break them properly too. So she's definitely not a stick in the mud. She likes her drink. She likes her alcohol. She likes playing. Yeah, she likes playing. Fucking daring drinking games and stuff. So she's a lot of fun. But yeah, she's she's a big softie. Continuing with the theme of never do the same thing twice, we've got Sylvia, which is a very unique character design, one of the most unique in the book, I believe. She is the voice of light, and she has a very insectoid sort of base rising into a slug. I particularly enjoy the little sluggy things on her face. She is completely deaf. She cannot hear, and so she speaks in a sort of Civic sign language. And she is, as I mentioned, the voice of light. So what is the voice of light? Well, in the world, light isn't held in a flame or a bulb, but it sort of grows through the city in photons of phosphorescence and colour. And Sylvia manages the song towers, and basically it's a sort of forecast of weather, and she is essentially in charge of keeping an eye on the patterns of light, making sure that everything's working correctly. It's actually a pretty fucking important job. She also invented or helped invent the song towers, and the song towers are of great importance. She was not born deaf. Something did happen. She always liked her music, and she has a very nice voice herself. So what happened to Sylvia? You'll have to read the book. But I will find a little extract to read you of Sylvia. Where the fuck would she be? Here we go. She was in chapter 13. Somewhere. Here we go. Before the first tower, Sylvia, voice of light, was waiting. Sylvia's shape could best be summarized as a fine mix between mollusk, insect, and a shapely woman. Her lower half was that of a white centipede with long spindly legs hidden beneath a billowy dress of silver and gold. She seemed to float, so gentle were her movements. The dress rose to a tight corset, binding her waist, splitting at her ribs to reveal a smooth and naked chest. Her long neck craned as Sombra thumped over, looking upon him with 12 beady black eyes. 2 of the 12 were somewhat larger, revealing a shiver of violet in the iris. Her white face was painted with patterns of black and gold, bleeding down from the eyes, splashing her cheeks with swirls. Her mouth was lipless, smooth, and unemotional, and her pointed ears were torn and frayed. A mass of pale, thin tendrils grew atop her head, undulating like hair in water, pulsing with blue luminescence. Her back bore a pair of bony wings, webbed with the same pale flesh of her body. Sylvia had a hand to her collar like a proud professor before a keen class. The other clung to a glowing lantern, light spilling from the seams like liquid, pooling beneath her. And wherever Sylvia roamed, the light followed. And she does speak in sign as well. She plays an important role. And Sombra was with her, so here we go. Here's Sombra, perfect. Sombra is one of my first character designs, or one of my first characters in general. He was originally called Wraith, a sort of the keeper of a void of a library in the void. Obviously, he evolved into a more sort of developed character. I always liked the red and the green. I think they go very well together, and I think they are representative of Sombra's temperament, which is very calm, very soothing, very relaxed, but also quite grumpy and potentially violent as well. And I do also like his back of antlers. He's got this sort of appearance of a forest god, and in the book it describes one of these antlers being broken, and you can see layers of encrusted time. He's a very ancient figure. Why he looks old when none of the other characters look old, that is something for you to discover. Although, to be honest, you probably won't get many answers in the first book. But there are hints, if you pay attention. So yeah, I think I can read a little bit. One thing I might do is I might read a bit of his library, because I think him and his library are just one and the same thing. He aged for having Winifred as a sister, yeah. Yeah, Christ. So, I'll just read quite a bit. You know what? I'm going to read a bit about the library. I hope you guys like fictional libraries, because another reason you should buy this book is because it has the best fictional library ever to exist in any story ever to have been written. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to read it, and if you have a better library, then fucking send it to me, but it doesn't exist. Prepare yourselves. A library such as Witchin might seem like a daunting thing to traverse, as it was not only impossibly large, but greatly complex in structure. Witchin was dense and deep, with and in every corner where the light crept or darkness lurked, there were books. The library had its own collection of districts, each dedicated to a particular pillar of study. Some areas were accessible through the air, suspended high like floating islands held in place by incredible chains of creaking metal. In some cases, one might need to swim, for the works of Kivawakian dowsers were not inked but carved into tablets of white stone secured in the deep lake of Rom, a vast space of water haunted by tales of giant whispers finned, clawed and tentacled, who guarded the sunken treasures of the library. But whether Witchin boasted creeping corridors of ghostly green or high-hanging islands, whether the records were stored deep within dark waters or stacked tall upon mountainous peaks, whether a quiet room of enlightened poetry or a lonely corridor of cold mathematics, Sombra knew it well. Always he walked, being one who enjoyed the journey, the substance that came with doing things page by page, every word. Perhaps slow, but he would call it methodical, and woe to any who would underestimate his seemingly doddery approach. When he moved, he did so with purpose, and when spurred to action, those movements were quicker than most. Who the fuck sent me a message? Oh, nice. The first district Sombra passed was the Eisenspine, home to all mathematical theories and ponderings. The spine was infused with cold blue light, along with smaller traditional bursts of swirling emerald and moss. The district was structured in a cubic manner. There were no gentle curves or softly arching pathways. Even the cobblestones were perfectly squared. It was as if the whole district had been devised by a computer, where all things were perfectly balanced and angular, where all structures were built with maximum functionality in mind. Despite the size of the spine, it took Sombra no time at all to navigate. He knew all the fastest routes, all the Mandosian pathways to shave hundreds of miles from his journey. Throughout the district he saw many whispers about their duties, a great many departments working busily. The mathematicians didn't say much, not even to him, but there was a certain glance of acknowledgement as he passed, and that was enough. The Amberlight district came next, boasting the complete collection of all fiction, songs and poetry. This department would regularly transcribe works based upon demand and have them sent to the book boroughs. For this reason, the district was one of the busiest. It was a swirling warren of curved bookcases, red brick, and flowing channels of water that shone like golden syrup. The whispers appointed there travelled upon pretty little steamboats, which chugged the treacle rivers in constant transit. While being ferried to their destinations, books in hand, wing and claw, the whispers would discuss amongst themselves the hidden meanings, often quoting their favourite passages, or singing aloud the beloved songs of the city. There was a number of little laugh-houses and chop-shops peppered about the library, but Amberlight shared theirs with the neighbouring mathematicians, and what interesting conversations they had. The merriment of Amberlight began to fade as he descended into the library and onto the bridge of Dala, a direct path to Hollowfine. It did not curve, arch, or twist. It was a straight stretch of smooth grey flooring, populated by high towers of black stone rimmed with thorny gates. The light was stark white, like the firing neurons of an angel's brain. It webbed the black bridge. So, you think that? I'm not going to stop there. Fuck you. This is a bit later in the book. This is the best library in fiction. I'll fight anyone who disagrees. The Venesis Archive, home to government reports, legislation, and court transcriptions. Among the largest districts in Witchen, Venesis was a place of blistering speed and efficiency. Networked throughout the Locketian structure were deep green rails on which interlinked carriages clung. These monstrous trains spanned hundreds of feet in length. Like centipede roller coasters, they crawled along the rails in blurs of motion. The rails were infused with moss and seafoam light, and as the carts flew by, sparks of ignition spat lashings of furious colour that leapt and splashed the walls with red. From there, the hellish light crept up brick and metal and found its food in the dust between the cracks. Venesis was a district of clockwork instruments, rattling chain, lavish transport, and engineering. Hard Locketian. The library was Sombra's, but the lady built Venesis. Yeah? You want more of that? I'm telling you. I'm fucking telling you guys.
What was that accent? What was that from?
Listen, the Witchen Library fucks, alright? I'm not even gonna fucking have it questioned. Alright? There is no... We were just talking about Sylvia, so... The bridge took them both into Holothine, home of history. Holothine was a stony series of chasms presiding over a black abyss strewn with flowers. Below the floral display of roundheads, squareheads, light thrashers, backslashers, and wide-faced halo sailors was a never-ending nothingness, a face of death masked by natural loveliness. The blanket of flowers looked to be an ocean of paint from afar, a sprawling image containing colours beyond all earthly knowledge. Sombra moved his hands like a dance. We're after corridor 537. Sylvia replied, That's on the outskirts. The bridge takes us deeper. We'll go in, then around. Sylvia shook her head, stepped up to the edge, and raised her lantern high. The light spilled down, and the flowers came to life. There came a great wave, sending discarded petals up into the air with a rush of motion. The hungering flowers pooled at the base of her, and over their bodies the voice of light crept, held aloft by root and stem. See this? See this, guys? See this fucking library? So essentially, Witchen Library is it's fucking huge. It's there's a thing in the Kipperwack of maximalism, gigantism. It is like a country almost. And the way they address the distance is through Mandosian corridors, which are stitches in space-time. So they can travel these extraordinary distances with these particular corridors. So it's essentially just this, it's literally a world of books. And you've got little steamboats and you've got different sort of types. There is a porn section. But yeah, so... if anyone has a fictional library better than Witchen, let me know. Let me fucking know! I'm only fucking around. There's loads of good libraries and all sorts of books. But I do have my bias towards Witchen. Because it is just fucking... the Vatican archives. Please. Please. Right, okay. We have Waxel here. Now Waxel in the book is, she speaks with a sort of Irish sort of lilt. She's very stoic, very strong. I didn't censor her chest because YouTube probably thinks that she's a man. Which is again, it's fun. I like playing around with character designs in different body types. Like, not all the female characters are apparently female. Some of them have more masculine features, and some of my male characters have more feminine features. So it's like it's fun. Character design's fun. Just play around with shapes and sizes, and women can look like this. It's great. Yeah, and of course she has these tendrils. She is the voice of the Yolsh. So she is essentially the supreme commander of the Civic military. Besides Winifred, I think, easily the strongest fighter in the entire city. She will fuck you up in a millisecond. A literal fucking millisecond. And I do have a little extract of Waxel, which I think you will all enjoy. Okay. This will be another lengthy one, because we're going to learn about Whitefall. Because we learned a bit about the library, Sombra's domain. Well, this is Winifred's domain. And this is also where Waxel finds her home. Little weighs greater than the total dedication to a craft. And when the art is Yolshin, one must be born strong. Not just strong of body, but also strong of mind, and unbending will. And out of all those throughout history who had turned Winifred's golden head, only one proved metal enough to inherit the crushing weight of the Yolshin Institute. The one who bore no cracks, no signs of bending, no weakness. Of them all, it was Waxel. Yolshin students would flock to her lectures, hanging upon her every word and action. She was softly spoken, addressing matters of death through a voice that seemed almost shy and peaceful. Not once did she shout. Not ever. And when she took to the arenas to fight and demonstrate the art, she would move as a dancer, painting white stone red. All would watch in awe, scribbling their notes, shouting their questions. Waxel would stand there, arms behind her back, naked and bloodied, surrounded by conquered bodies, and expand upon her methods. To this enduring fighter, the Yolsh would look, hoping to adopt even an aspect of her image. Outside the hardy lecture halls of Whitefall, Waxel donned her political skin, speaking on behalf of Winifred's ancient order. She dressed for the role, keeping it simple and modest, but did not enjoy the restriction over all. In court, that soft voice was carried to each and every ear, and all would listen. In moments of quiet, Waxel would sit and write her orders, sign documents, and read the reports of her generals. Despite the heavy load, she seemed to enjoy it, taking a seat next to the waters of Haylow, retreating into herself, if only for a short while. With her duties fulfilled, Waxel ran naked through the stony halls of Whitefall, pushing further each time. She swam the icy lakes of Rold, plunging deep into the dark, pressing past the drowned bodies of Yolshin failures large and small. She sailed through the air on black leathery wings, forged from the tendrils at her back, resting only at the peak of Whitefall, regarding the city, catching her breath. Even the rivers of fire would not dissuade her, for she ran their length through sweat and anguish, pressing harder, digging deeper, and never would she stop until the trial was complete. Waxel's home was a dark tower beside the stark gold river, a rush of molten lava breaking out into a vast lake of fire. Rising from the flames was the likeness of Winifred, forged in stone. She held the ceiling aloft like a god, thousands of feet in height, and from the mouth came drooling magma, falling into the lake below. Waxel's tower lay just before it, comprised of black and white stone with hard metal, unyielding to heat, rooting it deep. Like a rook fallen from the chess game of titans, the tower loomed large over the stony landscape. Battlements and other fortifications were present at the edges, and decorating the bridge were the blunted torsos of living failures. Despite the appearance, the air was somewhat cool, graced by a pleasant wind trickling in from the west. Inside was a tall chamber adorned with cool white stone, metal tables, various sculptures, and folded bodies for decoration and seating. At the centre was a round pool of black water, spreading wide the scent of burnt timber. Through glass windows came crimson and gold, mixing with the moss and silver light inside. Waxel marched past the pool and donned a black silky robe, slashed with grey, and secured it tight around her waist. She leaned against a stone pillar, grey skin beaded with sweat, and closed her eyes, knowing it was moments before her next engagement. Enough rest. Back to work, she told herself. So Waxel is the fucking definition of a workaholic. She exists to work. She doesn't have time for friends. She doesn't have time for fun. She doesn't have time for anything. But she is not cruel. She is very soft-spoken. She is actually very gentle. I like her. I think she's nice. She is tough though. Like she will definitely be extraordinarily polite to you, but if you try and fuck her over, you will perish. But she is utterly dedicated to her craft because obviously she lives in the shadow of Winifred. And here she is, the Golden Queen. Very, very intimidating. I changed the antlers to look more like blades. I thought that would be a cool... It separates her from Locket and Sombra in a very nice way. This is probably the most violent character in the book. Well, I mean, sort of. She's very passionate. She gets angry a lot. You know, she's fucking feared. She created the Ocean Institute. These markings on her body are not they're not the ocean markings. They are her natural markings. The ocean markings are based on these. So you're looking at the founder, and she is the Grand Whisper, which is basically like the essentially like the second in command almost of the city. She helps Locket with all the politicking. Now I would promise naked pictures of Winifred, but she doesn't wear clothes ever. She's fucking allergic to clothing, and the reason for that is because she's a fighter. She's a warrior of great renown and legend, and she does not appreciate the idea of hiding such a strong, powerful form behind clothes. That's why the Yosh do not wear clothes. Waxel does wear clothes when she has to go into politics. She is the voice of the Yosh, which means she has to carry papers around and do stuff. But Winifred is she's fucking Winifred. So let us find a nice. Let's find her description. We're coming to the end here. I think there's just 2 left after this. Hope you've all enjoyed the stream. Where would her description be? Oh, we're close. Okay, so let's do Winifred's description. Okay. Almost here. It's after this. The Grand Whisper. Yes. Okay. So this is Winifred's. I'll read her introduction. It's fun. Winifred was often heard before she was seen. Hers was a fiery voice that seldom fell to tedium. In fact, it was among the most expressive tones ever to be vocalized. Never a shriek or a piercing whine, but rather a blast of fire, attractive, powerful, close to carnal. This baffled the victims of her temper, for when bathed in her furious breath, emotions clashed. I'm so sorry, Grand Whisper, said the quivering male, his whole body a-tremble. Not another word, you hear? Not another word out of you, boy! Winifred's lungful snort washed over him, bathing his face in heat. You will amend the article now! The lowly Whisper bowed his head, his mind ablaze with emotion. The lecture theatre was empty, a wide space of wooden seatings, desks, shelved books, and not a living soul to spare him of this golden inferno. Winifred loomed high above him. Her head sat atop a long, sinuous neck, coming to a height of 9 feet and 15 with the addition of her golden antlers, stabbing at the air like daggers and swords. Her naked body was cloaked in white fur, held aloft by legs so massive and powerful, even metal quivered at her coming. Beyond the muscled thighs came a soft stomach with formidable musculature hidden behind. and from a considerable rump came 3 tails like constrictors, able to crush bones to dust. Winifred's chest was rounded and cushioned with sinew, but little fat, and her arms looked to be lethal weapons, even relaxed and crossed as they were. Her head was that of an angelic ram, with long pointed ears and golden thorns piercing through her lips like stitches. Upon her forehead, below the antlers, were 10 smaller horns, serving as a crown upon her magnificent head. Gold lived upon her. She had golden eyes, golden gower hair, golden lashes, golden claws, and golden stripes across her nose, shoulders, and thighs, her natural war paint. And finally, her golden mane, mixed with shades of fire and shadow, shooting from her scalp and back like the impact of a colossal meteorite, an explosion paused in time. Winifred was a cataclysmic body, a fiery mind, and an animal not to be trifled with. Her fierce eyes burned like embers. With fierce eyes like burning embers, she scorched the male. "You mess this up again, boy, and I'll come down on you so hard the architects will think you rubble from a bloody bomb site." "Yes, I understand," Gran whispered Winifred. His fear stank. "Move!" So, yeah. We are introduced to Winifred chewing out this poor bastard. So, yeah. Moving on. Wiley. Now look at this guy right here. Look at this guy. Now he is the editor of Ruthergush. He is a long sort of fella. He is very much the king of Ruthergush, so a very lion-like design. He is sort of like an eccentric stocking, if you will. Quite charismatic, quite hard. He's prone to fits of rage, but he's also quite reasonable. He's not a bad dude. Yeah, he's Lucy's boss. Lucy, Ludwig, and Shale are his employees, so he is the editor of Ruthergush. And I will do my best to find his description somewhere here. As you can probably tell, I'm getting a bit dozy. Where the fuck am I? Oh, here we go. In fact, I think what would be better is Lucy breaking him down. That would be fun. Because Lucy does a bit of a psychological breakdown on him, which I think is kind of cool, which summarizes his character pretty well. Yes, Lucy does gain lawful employment in the book. You want to know how that goes? Read the book. Links in description. Okay. Lucy observed obsessively, learning all she could about her target. Wiley is a hard creature to impress. He rarely acts cruelly, though perhaps a little strict. On some occasions, he'll fly into colourful rants or berate an employee. He's a humiliator, though prone to rage and the odd violent outburst. Wiley knows how to control his staff. Countless times, Lucy observed him tear entire papers to shreds and demand they be written again. "I'll not repeat myself," he said. Once the papers are printed, there's no viable way to edit in time. They must be perfect. Anything less will be burnt and stuffed down your core-killing throats." His vocabulary is something I've not quite heard before. It is as if he invents himself right down to the words he uses. I see layers to this mind, layers that'll take longer to break down. Wiley wants so desperately to be feared, but also respected. His colourful words are designed to boast an intellect far greater than those around him, but I've not heard any definitions. Is that on purpose? To remain vague? To assert an intellect far beyond definition? Worrisome. Lucy would track Wiley whenever he left the ink house, clinging to him like a shadow, unseen, undetected. She watched him eat, trade, and muse to himself. She learned the subject of Wiley, studied his soul. So yeah, that's Wiley. And last but not least, we are doing these in alphabetical order. Oh shit. Yeshua. You wouldn't think I'd forget this guy. Easily the most controversial character in the book, if not, besides maybe Methusa. People, it's like love or hate. It's like 50-50 from what I can see. In Yeshua's case.
I would turn him into a rug.
Carmen just said she would turn him into a rug. Which is, I mean, I get it. I get it. He's a dude. He's a guy, you know. He's a very large character in the book. Large as life, as you might say. And I've got the perfect part to... I'll define like a little short extract. The fuck is it? Oh, here we go, almost. Ba 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 da ba ba. Ba da ba ba ba. Okay, it's after this. Oh, tell you what, I know. I'm gonna go with another one. I know a good little extract that goes into sort of his habits, which isn't far from where I'm currently at. Here we go. Just gotta go back a few pages. Okay. Yeshua had many accommodations scattered across the city, though none were as homely as the upper halls of the Empire, which is the name of his theatre, by the way, far above the main stage. His chambers were located at the end of a winding corridor, bedecked with his numerous musical inventions. Above the doorway was a large mingling of folded flesh, attractive bodies with minds long destroyed long ago. Their shameful contortions were secured and suspended in tight black rope that whined and creaked as they hung. This display was a bending net, one of many ventures into the experimental world of private activity. The tight, binding art was mostly enjoyed by clients and dollies, but for Yeshua it was a presentation of trophies. Beyond the door was a chamber with soft red rugs, a great round window facing south, and a ceiling so tall it bled deep into the dark. Though the concept of a ceiling was relative to one's orientation, there was the rule of intended orientation, which insisted upon dominant flooring. Ceilings and walls were not typically used for accommodation or storage, but regardless, they could be used creatively. Upon Yeshua's ceiling, he chose to continue his display of entwined bodies, thousands now, all contorted together in a showcase of eternal defeat and mockery. Like flies they hung and swayed, held in his brutal, exposing web. Yeshua drank deep of his crystal glass, happy to stroll among his collection once again. Peppered upon the floor were larger bodies, kneeling and bent to form an array of furniture, though there was also a mix of soft couches and glass tables. So there you go. Yeshua's got that. Thalius and Mystique are two characters from my wife and my best friend, and I didn't design them, but they are in the book. But I wouldn't want to, go into their designs because obviously they are not mine to really talk about with regards to how they were built and stuff. Of course, I did write the book, it was done with their with their cooperation, of course. But yes, Is there anything else? Are there any other? I mean, that's all the characters we went over, I believe. Bartholomew's, Boutica, Basil and Teaser. Excuse me. Excuse me. Here I am.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm just... Hang on. The fucking camera's... Oh, fuck. Hang on. Right. So. Here it is. Amygdala. Right? First in a series of many books. Fully illustrated colour illustrations. There are there's 80 or I think 90 illustrations in the book. It's a big fucking book. It's 1,000 pages. The physical copy, yes, it's a bit expensive, but you do get what you pay for. There's easily, 50 hours of entertainment in this if you read at a normal pace. Some people have been able to fucking read it in a day, which I think is fucking remarkable. Some people are on their 7th read, some people are on their 12th read. I'll take that as a good sign. It does sit at 5 stars on Amazon. It has well over 100 reviews by now, so that should be a good sign. It's a very engaging, intelligent, political drama with a very good story. As you've seen during the stream, solid characters, a lot of psychology and thought behind it. It is as I can happily say that the book is as creative as it is intelligent. One of my issues with a lot of creative content is that it's creative, but it's not always written up to the standard that I would like to see. And a lot of intelligently written things are not as creative as I would like to see. This is both. This is both. Right? You get a creative world, wild characters. It is a parody of the animal kingdom of human culture, and therefore it has intelligent insights. The plot makes sense. There are no fucking plot holes. There are no contrivances. There is no bullshit. It is a fucking well-written story. You will not be disappointed, I guarantee you. And yes, of course I'm trying to sell the book, okay? That's my fucking job. But yes, I can, I was a bit... What, sorry, Carmen?
Are you sponsored?
I'm sponsored by my own book. Well, the book's been out for a few months now, and when it first came out, I was worried. It was a big risk. The book is, for those who have read it, in the chat, you will already know that it's a very mature story. It takes itself seriously. It's not a fucking joke plot. There's a lot of difficult topics in there. It's not simple either. It's not a good versus evil type shit. And I guarantee you, I can guarantee you it 100%, it doesn't matter who you are or what you think. It doesn't even matter if you don't like the book. 100%, the book will make you think. It will make you think. It will make you consider things that you haven't before. It will introduce you to various concepts, to various ideas. It will activate your brain, okay? Guaranteed 100% Amygdala will activate your brain. It will make you think. It's not mindless content. It's creative, yes. There's a lot of fun, colourful characters, yes. But by God, it will make you think. And it will challenge you. This is another guarantee. It will challenge you. The convictions that you go in with the book will be challenged by the end. Okay? No matter what your politics are, what your philosophies are, what your ideologies are, this book will challenge you. And the reason for that is very simple. The characters have their own unique perspectives, and the book does not have an opinion. This book does not tell you what to think. It doesn't tell you who is right or who is wrong. It doesn't have a moral message. All the book does is present a collection of ideas within an interesting political story, and it is your decision. You get to decide who you agree with without judgments, and the book does not point its finger and say you need to do better, or you should think this, or you should be like this, or you need to adopt this method of thinking. It doesn't do that. There is no single character in this entire book that I fully agree with, right? Same with you. So, yeah. It gives full power to the reader, full agency, right? You will be able to hear these arguments, hear these perspectives, understand the plot. You will receive the information, and what you do with that information belongs to you. That's what I want my fiction to be. Something valuable to you. Not just some throwaway bullshit story with, revenge is bad, killing is bad, we need to love and accept each other, blah blah. No, there's enough of that. We don't need that. What we need is some engaging fiction that teaches you about some interesting ideas that even I wasn't aware of when I wrote the book. I did a lot of research, There's a lot of stuff that I researched while going into this book that I wasn't aware of, and I learned. I was like, I didn't know that. That's interesting, and I worked it in. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Shit. Who are they?
Yes, Carmen.
Super chat.
Oh shit! Someone said $200. Fucking hell! Thank you. Maddening music. I like that name. Hello. I fell in love with the book. My favorite character is Ludwig. Great. You know what? That's a good favorite character to have. And that's another thing. Your favorite character can be anyone. One thing that I hate in fiction where it's like, this character's the bad guy. You're not supposed to like him. You're not supposed to agree with him. Well, another thing I fucking hate is when you can tell that the writer doesn't like a certain thing and makes that certain thing just obviously bad. I will say this, that there are characters in this book that are more competent than others. They are more intelligent than others. They are more logical than others. And that does show. Okay? There is a disparity in power. This is a hierarchy of power in this book. But that doesn't mean that I personally don't like the characters who are on the lower rung. And it doesn't mean that those characters do not lack influence. Okay? It does not mean that what they do and say will not echo through the series as it goes on. Okay? Every character has their time to speak. Every character has their time to make their argument. And some of those arguments you will love, some of those arguments you will hate, but one thing I can guarantee is the book will not stick its finger in your face and say you are wrong for that. Okay? I know we live in an era now where a lot of fiction likes to point its fucking finger in your face and say, be better, be better. Fuck that. The only thing this book wants to say to you is please, please, please think. Just think about things. Think about alternative perspectives, new ideas, strange ideas, scary ideas. Nature is beautiful. It's also fucking terrifying and weird, And you'll see that in the book. It's violent. It's sexual. It's fucking intelligent. It's creative. It's bizarre. It's all in here. Okay? So yeah. The August View is a series of books that I am writing. This is the first one. It is a parody of the animal kingdom, which includes humanity, and its goal is to tell a fucking interesting story with fucking interesting characters that make sense, with no bullshit, that allows the reader to think for themselves about a plethora of topics. Okay? So, if you haven't already, buy the book. I shouldn't open the book because there's some nudity in the illustrations, but yeah. If the physical copy is too expensive, because I understand that it's an expensive book. The reason is that it's expensive. It costs about 3 times the average book. It's bigger than the average book. It's 3 times longer. This is 1,000 pages, and it is in full color print. So yes, it is expensive. But if you read it, you have, easily 50 hours of entertainment. And you can read it again and again and again. You can also buy the ebook. The ebook is much cheaper. Of course, you don't have the benefit of having the physical copy. It is very satisfying to hold. One thing that I would like to point out is that the book, not only does it have the illustrations, but it respects your attention. It has nice embellishments. It has nice artwork. As you can see, Even the blank pages have something on them. This is a very high quality thing. It's not something that you buy in an airport and throw away. It is a work of art. The front cover, it's all illustrated, it's all painted, it's got the embellishments, it's got the little motifs, everything. The book respects your attention. So owning it doesn't feel like you've been jibbed. You pick it up, you see the cover, it feels nice, it's a nice product to have, it's nice to own. But you can buy the ebook, which is much cheaper if you just want to read the story. And I will have the audiobook out soon. I'm starting recording. Well, the process is already underway, actually. But yeah, if you're still not sure, please go on Amazon or go on whichever website you want. Read the reviews. Just read the reviews.
Or read the first couple chapters, because those are free.
Oh yes, or get the free. You can get the free preview for the ebook if you're not sure if you'll like it or not. But I've read some extracts here. I hope you like the writing style. It is detail. I do like to use language in a way that is less I suppose laborious. Content Gremlin the third. We got I normally can't finish a book, but yours was the first I've read since primary school that I've actually been able to finish. I love it. Well, there you go. There you go. One person can't be wrong, can they? Come on. One whole person? Think about that. One person said that. One whole person. Think about how many cells. That's like 1 billion cells. Do you think 1 billion? 1 billion, guys?
That's almost 2 billion.
Oh, yeah, that's almost 2 billion. That many can't be wrong. 2 billion. That many can't be wrong. Come on. Do you need any more? What else can I say about this while I'm here? Well, you know what? The illustrations as well, I will just say, does separate it from other books. The reason I wanted to do illustrations is because it's a big cast of characters. And I liked the idea that alongside having well-written introductions and descriptions, what you can have is an illustration of the character when you first meet them, so you know who they are and what they look like. And then later in the story, say if they appear a few chapters down the line, you have a second illustration. You saw during the stream there were multiple illustrations of a lot of the characters. And that's because, like, when you meet Celia in, say, chapter 2, there's her illustration. And let's say you meet her again in chapter 7. Which one was Celia again? Ah, yes, here's another illustration. And then chapter 15, Celia comes back. Oh, there she is again. See what I mean? So it's like you get multiple illustrations of the characters. And then it's not just the same illustration over and over again. It's, it's... Yeah. It's, multiple. So... I just fucking tweak that. So, yeah, the second book is on its way. This book is 28 chapters. The second book will be 41 chapters. So it's going to be a big one, but I've got the process figured out much better this time, so it should be fine. So I hope you all enjoyed the stream. I hope you all had fun. I thought I did a breakdown of Teaser. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. You did it at the beginning.
Oh yeah, you can wind back if you want. She was one of the first ones I did. But yeah, and just a bit of advice, can I just say, for anyone who's writing out there, there's a lot of shit online about how to write a book, and you'll see these fucking diagrams like the hero's journey and these fucking circles like this is when this needs to happen and all this shit. Can I just say that if you create a cake with the same tools and the same recipe, you'll end up with the same cake. Okay? Fucking be original, please. You don't need to follow that fucking circle. You don't need to do your story of the same graph and this is where the hero falls and this is where they rise to action and then this is where they come home. No, just fucking do something original for fuck's sake. And you know, even if it's a mess at first, just write something that came from your own brain. Nobody wants to see the same fucking shitty stories recycled over and over again. You know, just do something fucking new. And I suppose that's what I'll close with on the book. Like, not everyone's gonna like it. Obviously, that would be fucking silly of anyone to expect. But at least it's new. At least it attempts to do something new. At least the stuff in here that actually is brand new to fiction, you know, takes place before the Big Bang. It's in the Kiviwak. It's got a whole new system, a whole new world. It's new. And guess what? I've seen a lot of people in this community come up with stuff that's just as new. It's great. I talk to people on my Discord. I talk to people in the community. And you guys have some fucking great shit. So don't water that fucking stuff down. You know what I mean? Just write it. Be original. Fucking hell, man. Don't fall to fucking cliche, please. We don't need another story about how revenge is bad, or judging a book by its cover, or fucking... If I see one more film that opens up with a prologue about how the darkness is coming, if I see one more trailer for a game or a fucking show and it's like the darkness is, I'll do something. You know,
I'm gonna make you play Kingdom Hearts.
Fucking hell, man. I swear to Christ, it's got to the point where I can literally fucking predict a lot of the, not every film to be fair, but a lot of the films I watch, it's like, okay, now this is gonna happen. Cue the misunderstanding, you know, where the character overhears a part of a conversation and then is like, you think I'm a freak? No, that's not what I said. And then they team up just before the end. And then it's like, yeah, we were friends the whole time. Fucking Christ.
That was the only trope that I didn't like in Shrek.
Look, Shrek was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know, but it's like
you know,
every other thing now.
But yeah. Take some risks as well.
Oh.
Please take some risks. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in this book, as I said, that's extremely visceral. That is not, it's not normal. Right? It's not fucking normal. But everything in this book is based on something that actually does exist. Like, you know, we talked about Boutica before and the doll face and the history of that. It's all rooted in culture. It's all rooted in shit that actually happens, you know? You don't believe me. If you don't believe that the animal kingdom is fucked up as well as beautiful, watch a nature documentary. And if you don't believe that humans are capable of that, fucking watch the news. I didn't come up with this shit. I just wrote about it. I just put it in a book, you know? That's all I did. But yeah. I'm gonna end the stream now. I'm gonna make a cup of tea. But yes. Come into bed, honey. Yeah. You know what? Someone just said morally grey characters. Do you want to know? I'm gonna do you one better, because grey implies that it's still on a spectrum of black and white. It's just somewhere in the middle. I like to think of my characters as multicolored. They are multicolored in the third dimension, with their own moralities and their own set of codes, and what is right for one is wrong for another, but there's no real way of knowing or measuring who's lawfully right, because there isn't really. If you look at morality through history, you go back 100 years, they were working with a whole different playbook. You go to a different country, they're working with a whole different playbook. Fuck it.
Or in the United States, go to a different state.
Yeah, you go to a different state in America, whole different set of moralities. In fact, you go to a different person just on the same street as you, they probably have a lot of different opinions. We're all different multicolored blotches of paint fucking flying everywhere. But it's an interesting picture. Anyway, I'll see you around. I'm gonna go to fucking bed. And remember, you have an incentive to buy the book. It's a good book and there's tits.